What is a Souls game? There seems to be a lot of confusion about what does or does not make something a Souls game, Souls-like, etc. So let's break down the hallmarks of the genre and determine exactly what is a Souls game. Let's start with the defining characteristic. Souls. It doesn't matter what each individual game calls them, it matters how they function. And the way the Souls works in every Souls game is they are experience, they are currency, and you can lose them once when you die, and then try to get back to them, and if you die again before getting back to them, they're gone forever, and then if you get back to them, you get them back. That is how they all work. It doesn't matter what they're called in any game. If it's a Souls game, it has souls, and they work like this. Now let's talk about common traits. These things don't make a game of Souls-like, but are shared among a lot of them. Stamina bar. This one is really important. The only Souls-like I can even think of that doesn't have a stamina bar is another Crab's Treasure. Aside from health, aside from magic, you have another bar that's expended when you do an action like attacking or rolling or dodging, and as you do that, that bar depletes. Stats, individual things that you level up, strength, intelligence, dexterity, etc, etc, etc. You put the points into the individual stats and you level those up. Classes and builds, this kind of goes hand in hand with stats, armor, weapons, a variety of different playstyles that you can tailor make by putting your Souls experience into the stats, get different classes and builds. See how these three work together. Flasks, this is a far less common trait because Demon Souls, the one that started it, and Bloodborne do not have flasks. They have healing items. You have a finite number of those. You have to go out and you have to get more. But the idea of a flask that recharges at rest points is a hallmark of a lot of Souls games, not all of them. Which brings me to rest stops. I can think of a lot of games that have rest stops that are not Souls-likes, but I can't think of any that are Souls-likes that don't have rest stops. These are bonfires, these are sites of grace, these are lamps, these are art stones, whatever you want to call them. And you're already saying, hey, a lot of these sounds like they're RPG mechanics, and that is because Souls games are a subgenre of RPG. Souls games are a type of RPG. Let's talk about a couple things that are not relevant whatsoever to being a Souls-like. It being hard, there being a parry, or being made by From Software. Plenty of games are hard. Devil May Cry is hard. No one's saying that's a Souls-like. Parry. Spider-Man 2's got a parry. No one's saying that's a Souls-like. It being made by From Software. I know a lot of you hadn't heard of From Software prior to Dark Souls, but I promise they've made and still make a lot of different things. Cookies and Cream, not Souls-like. Deracine for the PSVR, directed by Miyazaki, not a Souls-like. Tenchu 2 for the PS1, not Souls-like. So using this system, let's talk about things that are not Souls-like. Stellar Blade is not a Souls-like. There is no Souls mechanic in the game. The game is not an RPG. You don't have stats that you level up. You do get experience from killing enemies, but that's separate from your currency. There are flasks and rest stops, but that does not necessarily in itself make it a Souls-like. There's no stamina bar, there's checkpoints. The only thing that makes it remotely similar is a flask and a rest point. Those two things alone do not make it a Souls-like. Sekiro, not a Souls-like. There are no souls, your experience and currency are separate. You can lose them, but there's no option to get them back. There's no stamina bar, there's no stats, there's no builds or classes. There are flasks and there are rest points, but that alone does not make it a Souls-like. To start off life as a Tenchu game, and then when they realized it was too different from Tenchu, they changed it to its own thing. Why does this matter? It doesn't. Genres are stupid.